Hi everyone and welcome back to part 2 of the Renault Clio build. So today is the strip down. We're going to take all the front end off and kind of do some exploratory work out what's been damaged, what parts we need to order, and essentially build that list to get this car repaired and back to the way it should be. Say if you're new to the channel, thanks very much for joining us and watching this video. If you like what you see, please hit the thumbs up button and most importantly hit that subscribe button and even the little bell icon next to it so you get notified every time I drop a new video. Enough talking, let's get started. So what I think I'm going to do first is try and get as much of the parts off the bumper as possible, because there are some sections like this upper section here which are undamaged. So I think the best thing to do, tear down the bumper, save all the things like the daytime running lights that aren't damaged, the fog light, the headlight, and any of the grills, and then kind of work our way back from there. So let's go for the time lapse. Okay, so I got a few bits off. The bumper, because it's all mangled and twisted, it's got like these plastic rivets that sit into it, and it was just easier to rip it off them than to try and get them out safely and put new ones in, because ultimately we can buy new stuff like that. But this is the top section of the bumper. It's part of a broken clip still attached to it just there, but I'll take that off. Other than that, short of needing a bit of a polish and a clean up, I think that piece is going to be absolutely fine. So that's going to save us money because they're about 80 quid to change out. The bottom centre section of the bumper isn't in too bad a condition, but because it's all twisted, I think we'll bin that and get another bit. I need to get the part number off this daytime running light because I've searched all over eBay and I can't find one that matches. A lot of these cars have two daytime running lights. One sits at the top either side of the grille. On this particular model they sit down in this bottom corner, which is made trying to find that particular type of bumper a lot rarer. We can now see a bit more in here, so this kind of grille surround, that's all knackered. That's just a couple of bolts, but it looks good to take those off. That is loose. It doesn't look like it's broken. I think it just literally sits there as a duct going into what I'm going to guess is either an intercooler or an aircon radiator. In fact, I think it's more likely to be, yeah, it's more likely to be the aircon, looking at the pipes that run to it. So other bits we need to get off. This bit here, this, what I'm guessing is a slam panel, and then we can investigate what's been going on behind the impact bar, which again, this doesn't look like it's taken an impact at all. It's really weird. I can't quite figure out how the accidents happen, because stuff's happened behind the impact bar but not in front of it, so it must have literally been quite a low level impact, shunting it down like that. I'm going to put the kettle on, have a brew, and then we'll carry on. So I've done a bit of a quick clean up. Just got all the loose bits, leaves, and rubbish that's sort of falling out. Now I'm going to tackle this vent, and I believe this vent, get the under tray off and get this headlight out, which annoyingly the bracket is cracked on it. So I don't know if we can glue it, which I don't think will be too bad because it's just one clip that's broken, or we might even end up having to change out this headlight as well, which is pretty annoying because that would have saved me a fair bit of money not having to replace that one. But the further we delve into the car, the more we're going to find, and just got to go from there, unfortunately. Let's crack on and get the rest off. Okay, that's probably a good point to just pause the time lapse. So now we've got everything off the front. You can see where everything's caved in. This section's obviously further back because this bar here, which is part of the support for the wheel arch that sits on this side, is bent. This section here is like that and should be about here, but that looks like it'll pull back out. I think the main problem we've got is there's so much tension on it because of this bracket down here has bent upwards, forcing the radiator backwards. So what I'm going to try and do is take some of the strain off that by putting a bar in here, pulling that down, and see if it will just take some of that tension off the radiator, and then we can look to take that out, see what damage is going on behind it. But there's been no real sort of horror stories at the moment, nothing I wouldn't have expected. Some of these parts, like the ducting there for the smaller radiator, which actually looks like it's still in one piece with no damage to it, that piece is absolutely fine. Inside the air vent here, which sat in front of the radiator, it's got one of the motors attached to it, and obviously what that motor does is it then opens and shuts these vents. But you can hear the motor moving and working, so I'm going to assume that's okay. So actually the motor itself and the plastic surround is sorry, the actual main part of it, the vent, is fine. It's just this kind of plastic and rubber surround which is taking the damage. So I might be able to just get this one part, and then that's that bit fixed, and that bit's fine. The top air vent's absolutely fine. So the vents, you know, and the ducting going into it seems to be okay. I was worried that this crash bar had taken a buckle here, but actually when you look at it from the other side, they're both identical. If anything, this is just pushed up slightly. This crash bar on that side is dead flat, and this one up here is slightly raised, but that's because it's all kind of pulled back here. So I'm guessing if that was kind of pulled forwards, we might be able to carry on using this. One little tip that I've always followed is if I take a bolt off somewhere, if it's on a piece of the structure, I put the actual nut or the bolt back in so it's there for when I come to do the reassembly. And then with regards to all the nuts and everything that I take off, I always label everything up, and then things like the fog light, I always bag that with the screws that attach it. This is the smashed DRL, so I'm going to get the part number off that, but this is the DRL that's undamaged. The wiring loom's taking a hit, so there is some damage to the wiring loom. I've actually taped some of it up but in there the wires are exposed, so we need to order a new loo. But again, the part number's on there, so that's not a major issue. So let's see if we can't get the tension off this radiator and get that out, and then get this top piece off. I'll probably reattach the horn to there, just so that it's sorry, to there, so it's not hanging loose, but up there for the moment it'll just sit at the top. And then when we get to the point where I start to disconnect some more on the wiring, I'll then take off the negative terminal on the battery, just to give myself a bit of peace of mind that there's no power running through anything. Let's see what we can do with that bottom bit of the bar. Right, so now we've got that off, we can actually see that this part here, this bar, is taking the majority of the brunt here and twisted. Looking at both the front parts of the chassis, they look identical. There's only going to be minor kind of impact to it. So if we look at this part of the chassis leg here, it's completely straight, no damage to the front impact bar where it bolts on. Whereas if we look at this one, it's bent backwards and it's all a bit mangled, and that's shunted back because we've got a crease there. So this whole section here needs to pull forwards. One thing I've been trying to work out, if you look at the clearance on this wheel, it's very close to the wing, whereas you look at this side, it might not show it as well. Oh, it does. You've got a lot more clearance. So that wheel is sitting too far back. But what I can't see is any damage back here. There's no kind of creases. There's obviously damage to the bits up here, but I can't see anything in this kind of structure which is distorted, twisted, or move back, even down there. So does that mean that part of the anti-roll bar's bent, or is it the suspension leg? See, it all feels solid and it all looks okay. I'll have to take some measurements of the suspension components and try and work it out, but my guess would be all the track arms is bent, but again, there's nothing blatantly obvious as to why that would be out of shape. Really, really strange. Unless just the force of the top part being pulled back has adjusted the actual geometry of the wheel alignment. Anyway, enough guesswork. The rubber mount for the radiator fell out, so I've still got that. I've got the other one of these rubber bungs. So let's see if we can't get this radiator out and have a look at what else we're left with behind there. I found out what's wrong with the wheel. So this section here should sit flat like that. It's bent up. If you look on the other side, that one is pretty much dead flat, whereas that's curved back. So take off this lower wishbone. Wishbone? Yeah, I'm fairly certain it's called the wishbone. Take off that lower wishbone, remove that bolt from in there, fit a new one, and that should pull the wheel back forwards, because all the damage, all the twisting of the metalwork doesn't seem to go much further past this or that top bit up there. So we could be onto a hopefully quite an easy repair, because some of the stuff is just bolt on, bolt off. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to take this top plastic bracket off. So I'm going to drop the car back down again, take these bits out, and I believe, looking at how everything fits in, the radiator kind of sandwiches into that part, so that'd be quite good. Oh, other thing, I told a lie earlier. I said the coolant was completely gone, but there's not. There is actually coolant in the system, and so if there's still coolant in the system, that might mean the radiator isn't damaged, but it does mean when I take it out, I better have a bucket ready, because if it all starts pouring out, it's going to make a right mess, and we don't want that. So let's get this bit off. So now I've got this top bit of support off, we can see how twisted the radiators are, but they are still holding water, because I checked one of the pipes at the lower end and that still feels like it's got a lot of tension behind it, so therefore there's still water in the system, and it did bubble slightly at the top here. Intercooler, which runs to the turbo, absolutely fine, so we need to salvage that. With regards to the radiators, obviously they're going to have to go in the bin, get some new ones, but we'll get the part numbers off those. The bracket down here seems to be okay, and that I believe attaches to the fan, which also seems to be okay, but once we get the radiators off we'll be able to tell that. We'll need to get a body shop to assess the damage up here. We need to order a new one of these support bars so that we got the alignment right when we get the bodywork done, to make sure that this all lines back up. And I say everything else seems to be okay. So if we can change that wishbone out on that wheel and double check the alignment's fine for the wheel, I'll be a lot happier then that there's nothing happened further back. And there certainly doesn't look to be, but you never know until you sort of start doing a proper level of investigative work into it. So let's get the radiators off, but I'm going to have another coffee first. Okay, so the battery died and then the memory card ran out of memory. So let's just do a recap. I think we've covered quite a lot. The whole front end is now pretty much stripped down. I took off all these little brackets and bits and pieces which were attached around here. That I've managed to just push a little bit, brought that bracket round just to try and get the bonnet to align a bit more, but because it's crushed, it's kind of distorted that end, so it's not going to sit perfectly, hence the reason I've put some microfiber cloths just so that when I shut it, obviously there's no bonnet catch now, it doesn't cause any damage to this wing, because that's the worst thing we could do, is cause more damage. What else? I've basically sealed up wherever there's a pipe with an end exposed on it. I don't want, I know, a random mouse climbing up there into the engine or any gunk or any rubbish getting in there. So I've sealed off all of these just with a rubber glove and a cable tie, tied it up by just tying up any of the pipe work that's loose. I will fill a bung in the air pipe as well, just so nothing gets into there, because this does have to sit outside, unfortunately. So what I'll do now is I will get into touch with the body shops, the accident repair centres, and I'll get somebody out to come and assess what we need to do with this. I've sorted through all the rubbish. This is the junk pile, however you have it, and then basically these are all the little bits of debris that I took out of the car. Another bag of rubbish there. Everything else that's needed, everything that we're keeping, with the exception of these bits, I need to still check those, all stored in the boot. So every single item that we've managed to save is just going to save us money, and that will keep that all nice and safe inside the car. So next thing I'm going to do, after we've had the bodywork assessed, I will probably start with the interior, with the dash. I'll try and get that ordered before we've had any kind of like the structural stuff done, because that way I can make sure the car actually runs. Now, okay, there's no coolant in there, so there is a risk, but if we can just prove that the car turns over and starts, that's a massive step forward. And I have come across a major issue. For me to replace that wishbone, which we know is damaged, I need to take the wheels off. And there's no locking wheel nut with the car, so I don't know if there's a way of contacting the previous owner or finding out who they are to see if I can get hold of the spare key and the locking wheel nut if they've got it. But yeah, that's a major problem now. I hope I don't have to have them drilled off, because that's an extra cost. Maybe I can speak to Renault and they can provide me with the correct wheel nut. Maybe there's only like 4 or 5 different variations of the wheel nut for this model of car, and I can just try them out until I know which one I need. But yeah, that's a bit of an annoyance. I mean, I literally have gone through the whole car, glove box, every little cubby hole, and I can't find it anywhere. So, oh well, if that's the worst thing that comes out of today, then we'll just have to deal with that. So I think we'll wrap it up there, guys. It's been a really, really good day. I made good progress stripping down the front end. I've got all my part numbers to now go and search for online. I just want to say a huge thank you for following and watching the videos. If you haven't hit subscribe yet, please do that before, so you don't miss out any other videos that I'm going to upload. Hit that little bell notification so that you get a notification every single time I drop a new video. And if you haven't added us on Instagram yet, go check us out on Instagram. I have also got a Facebook page, so I'll put those in the description, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Speak to you later.